This year, I took ayahuasca.
Oh, no, you didn't.
No, you did not.
Oh, come on. Did you
Because
go down to South America and do the whole thing?
No, I did it in the very exotic land of Studio City.
Really? No, really? Really? No, really? Really?
Everybody knows who Judd Apatow is from 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up and Funny People and Trainwreck and King of Staten Island and on and on and on. But I'd read an article ages ago, and both of I came to you with a TV show that I wanted to do about self-help and the Tony Robbins.
Right.
Because that world fascinates me, and I'm also at the same time completely skeptical.
But let me ask a question. If you have a Tony Robbins, if you go to a Tony Robbins seminar,
it's not self-help.
Are you doing self-help?
Well,
no,
because
you're paying a guy. You're doing Tony help.
But you drove there, so you're actually doing self-help.
Yeah,
by getting somebody to help you.
Yeah,
I know the whole thing is.
Yeah,
as
it's
they
like
say,
I did self-medicine. I went to see a doctor. That's not self-medicine.
and I'll get into why I have problems with self-help. Well, I'll get into it right now. First of all, a lot of people set themselves up for failure because you have to then say, I'm less than, so I need to do this thing. And then what you do is you buy the book or go to the seminar and you feel like you've done the thing, but you haven't corrected the underlying behavior that is the reason that you're there. But
that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to address the underlying behavior. But the thing that I was going to push back against self-help is never self-help. Self-help to me is I have a problem. I'm going to go out and sit on a rock under the stars and with fingers in a circle, cross-legged, until I come up with an answer. But I'm going to go... I have a problem. I'm going to go to Barnes & Noble and get a book from a guy who's going to try and help me. That's not self-help.
But also,
I'm getting an opinion.
And the underlying thing, yes, to self-help, it's not self, it's somebody else. But then again, the assumption there is there's something wrong, and I've got to address it, and doing the book is the solution, etc. So I'm fascinated that somebody who's as successful as he is was moved by this, and I know that Gary Shandling was one of the first people to turn him on to self-help. So that's what I want to find out about, among other things.
So we're going to go to a man who is known for comedy, known for making us laugh, who's going to inform us about why a man as successful as he, with everything he's got, and it's a lot. It's disproportionately a lot. It's too much.
Boy, this is almost
Some
like
would
you hold
say
a grudge.
Too much.
You hold a grudge.
And he feels that he needs to improve himself by reading a book by somebody he's never met.
Boy, you're diminishing the self-help thing in a big way.
No, because it's not self-help.
All right, let's find it. Well, let's
That's what I'm saying.
Let's find out. Well, thank you for coming on. Really excited to have you. We already did an amazing introduction to you and talked about.
I could have heard it and felt good about myself.
Well, you could have heard it. I don't know if you felt. I always take the oppositional point of view, Joe.
So
like a good hot intro.
Exactly.
The reason we wanted to have you on, among other things, not only because of your body of work, was it fascinating to me. I saw you in an interview in prepping for this with Larry King, and you said, kind of jokingly but not, behind this is terror.
Oh, yeah.
And then you talked about self-help, and I thought, I got to find out how does somebody so successful still have the terror behind the eyes, and what tapes are playing in your head, and how did self-help help you?
You're going right in. You're going right in.
I'm
you know
going
why?
Right in
because frankly, we've been here all day.
On the 8th interview you did today, you did the entire cast of How I Met Your Mother.
It has been.
Hold on. We're very specific about who we have. We didn't want to do celebrities, but it was fascinating watching you, like getting quiet and watching you talk about that and go, that resonates. It's amazing. It's amazing that would be what's inside, So if you can talk about that, I know Shandling gave you a self-help book and it started kind of then.
Sure. I mean, I didn't have any religion as a kid. My parents never mentioned it. It was just pure black hole. There was no we believe, we don't believe. It just wasn't.
No Hanukkah, no high holidays, no nothing.
We were the Jews with the Christmas tree because it was fun.
Right, okay.
And I never even knew if any of the family had rejected the idea of it for a reason. We were a family that had people in the Holocaust, but no one ever said, we don't believe it because of the Holocaust. There was none of that talk either. It was just like a sliding disinterest.
But you did have a phrase that resonated with me growing up in the same kind of household. The one line which informed you of a bigger issue was nobody said life was fair.
That's it. That's our whole religion. Nobody said life was fair. The other aspect of our religion was next year will be our year.
Both of which, by the way, the beginning and end line of the Torah.
Jewish mystics all said this.
So, and you also, your parents separated and you went through a lot of stuff growing up.
Yeah, and I think that the lack of any faith or even discussion to see where you stand with it is it's a weird hole to leave a kid. And I remember as a kid, I was always afraid of nuclear war. I was always afraid of Brezhnev, so I had this like quiet terror for some reason. I don't know, it was from the movie The Day After or something, but it did feel weird to have nothing to have any of it make any sense. So when I met Gary Shandling, he was the first person that gave me Buddhist books, Pema Chodron books, and Thich Nhat Hanh, people like that, and then Ram Dass, and told me that there were ways to organize your life other than just the immediate pain of workaholism and panic and hypervigilance. I just became hypervigilant. Like, I better get a job. No one is going to take care of me. I need to be organized. So,
and was that gesture from Gary? Did it come out of conversations he had with you, or did he just look at you and go, "This kid needs help. I'm going to give him a book"? Did it come out of your relationship with him that he said, "I think that this would be meaningful to you"?
Well, I'm not sure exactly. It's funny because when I look back at my relationship with Gary, which was very close, I almost felt like a starter kit for a son. Gary at the time was in a relationship with Linda Doucette. I wrote the Grammys, with him back in the late 80s or maybe 90 or 91. It was the first day I met him like the weekend the Gulf War started. So you check your calendar.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. But we just became very close and just hung out all the time. And I don't even remember whining about my life in any way. He was just introducing me to some ideas that interested him. I'm sure I said I needed them at some point. But the first one was he gave me a book that was called Turning Problems into Happiness. And it was written by some Buddhist monk. And the premise was that you should be happy every time you have a problem because it will force you to evolve in some way. You'll learn patience or compassion or something like that. And I had never heard a thought like that my entire life. Like, wait, so when bad things happen, I learn, and then so it's not so bad? I mean, I had never heard any ideas that helped me in my new adult life. And I remember when my mom died, he just dropped me off a box of books. And and it was all, very profound for me. And I think I'm still on that journey. And lately, I feel like I'm only now beginning to really get it, 30 years later. I think.
But is that just because you're so now you have time to do? I mean, you were on the treadmill to oblivion. You were doing so many things. But the other thing that I found that really resonated about you in my life, my family always laughs because when we go on vacation, we go anywhere. I prepare for every eventuality. And you said, I'm probably a good producer because I look at everything that can possibly go wrong and prepare for that. And that's how I live my life. And my family laughs at it, but they also go, but we expect that. You're the guy who's going to bail everybody out when there's problems. Is that a big responsibility and you just can't help yourself? That's where your mind goes?
I think that, when I was a kid, my parents really fought and never worked out an agreement of, what the alimony would be. Like, they never worked it out. And they just fought, paid a lot of lawyers, and kind of both went broke from a never-ending fight.
Wow.
And it made me think, you got to get organized. And so part of that is, how do you do a good job? I interviewed comedians when I was a kid. I interviewed Jerry Seinfeld when I was 16 years old.
Yeah, I read that.
For my high school radio station. And a lot of comedians said, it takes like 7 years to find your voice. So I learned from these comedians to be patient with my evolution as a writer or a comedian, and then I could really plan. Like I was doing long range planning. Like I'm 17 years old. I'm doing stand up. That means I'll be great when I'm 24. Okay, good. And then I was terrible for the first year or so, but I was like, I'm supposed to be bad. This is good. This is all part of the plan. And it gave me a weird kind of patience about it. And then as I turned into a producer, I think every time you suffer as a producer, you figure out like, how can I prevent this next time? Right? Like I made a movie and it went over budget, and the studio was so mean to me, and it was like getting kicked in the face every day. It was like we were $200 million over budget based on how they were treating me when we did The Cable Guy. We were like, I think we were supposed to be 40. It was 42, but I just got my ass whooped from all the people there. And then so for the rest of my career, I've never been over budget, never been over budget ever. Cause I'm like, yeah, that sucks. Be realistic, be organized, know your stuff. And I think you learn hundreds of those. Like, okay, if I, like for instance, Shandling, the scripts were always done like the night before, and Gary was always exhausted and in a bad mood. What if we wrote them several months before?
Right.
Maybe we'd be happier, and maybe the creative process would be less intense. And it's not always possible, but that's how my mind works. Like, how can I prevent the pain that disorganization will cause?
But I want to pursue that for a second. I want to get into so many things with you, but just, while we're playing around in this area of self-help, what you've just described to me is what almost anybody would go through. It's the, I screwed that up, I'm not going to do that again. It's a sort of natural way we learn things. We try something we've never done before. It's a mixed bag of experience. We learn from the good, we learn from the bad, we change the way we do it the next time. Someone said to, I think Peter said to me in when he said, hey, let's talk to Judd, that you have a substantial collection of reading in the self-help world. Is that because you have some doubt about your ability to learn from your experientials, or I'm trying to get a handle on, not because I don't believe in self-help. I guess most of the learning that I've had through what you're describing is both experiential and therapy, where I talk about my travails and this person sits there and goes, I see a trend, or I see an arc, or I have a question. Do you do that as well, or has that all been provided from your reading?
No, I do that as well, and have for a long, long time. But recently I looked in my journals and I realized that what I wrote yesterday was the same as 30 years ago in terms of my complaints and my whining and my pain and racing thoughts and hypervigilance. It was all the same.
Yeah, for me, still is, along with gotta drop that 20 pounds. Yeah, that seems to be my big thing.
Gotta exercise. Get on that treadmill. Like it would literally, I would list it. Don't forget to meditate. Don't have sugar. And it's the same from 1992. So this year I took ayahuasca.
Oh no, you
did not.
Oh come on. Did you go down to South America and do the whole thing?
No, I did it in the very exotic land of Studio City.
But wait a minute,
how
do you vet that it wasn't like camel testicles and whatever? How do you know what it was?
I did. It was someone that had been to the person before, and I just thought I need something to just like kick me out of like a certain kind of mental rut. And it definitely did. I'll say that. I don't recommend it.
Wait, what did it do? Did you throw up? What was the process?
Did you throw up?
Yes, that's part of it. You throw up.
Are you not familiar?
When anybody tells me, it's good for you, you're going to throw up. I go, how is that good?
You don't throw up.
That's not a selling point usually, but okay.
Your soul leaves through your mouth.
And what about diarrhea? Can I get diarrhea too with this, or do I have to pay extra? So what was the process? What did you go through?
What did you, or more importantly, what did you discover that?
And where do you do it in Studio City? Arts Deli? I mean, there's so many questions. Booth 8 at Arts. Say nothing, just sit.
Order the soup.
So what was it like?
It's funny because I talk about it on stage when I do stand-up. I always ask the crowd, has anyone done it? And the funny thing is, at Largo where I play, it's 250 seats. It's usually one person.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because it's like, wow, this drug is so insane that only 1 out of 250 are doing it.
Right, yeah.
You know, in LA, which is like the experimental city.
Right.
But when I ask people, what did you get out of it? Everyone has a crazy story, but a similar kind of lesson. There's a lot of people who, one guy said, I opened a box and inside was my name. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And he goes, to just be, which is also like, stop your racing thoughts. Right. And then the other night, someone said, I realized that I was part of the fabric of the universe. And then someone else, it's always the same thing, which is some version of either be kind to each other in the way you want to be kind, or it's we're all in this together. And to some people, there's aliens involved to get there, right? They're having, and I had that, crazy like visions of things, but it lands at, be nice, like we all have to take care of each other, but in a profound way, not in a simple bullshit way, where like you really feel it, like, oh yeah, you forget that's the whole point.
So let me and be honest. I know you'll be honest. So let's say you did the ayahuasca and you had this revelation on Tuesday.
Yeah.
On Sunday, do you go, yeah, I think I did ayahuasca? Or does it stay with you?
How long does it last? That was my question. How long does it last?
Well, here's the funny thing is, and people had told me about things like this. For months afterwards, I would wake up in the middle of the night. I would feel like I had been having a conversation and I had just woken up into the middle of my mind having a conversation. And then an idea would be presented to me. So it was like I had been thinking about something. I woke up and then I would hear something. It would be like, you don't do any of the things you ask your wife to do. But like you'd wake up with that as like a power thought,
Wow.
and it happened for months. And interesting insights, as if like some part of my mind is still working on aspects of it. And I think that people, some people see it as mystical. I don't know if it's chemical. I don't even know what it is. I try not to think about it. But it definitely felt like it helped me let go a little bit. That's what I felt during the whole trip was let go. What are you holding on to? Just let
Well, you're in a job where you control everything. You do the casting, you do the writing, I mean, that's a big control thing.
Yeah.
And are you good at letting go?
Hey, tell him, go back to the casting thing because...
God, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
Really? I would never
really?
say it to him, but I will say to you.
Wait a minute, really? No, really?
Some people think I would do comedy.
I need a self-tape. I need a self-tape.
Hold on, I think you need ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, really. That's on my throat. Ayahuasca, Jason.
Yeah.
I consider when I saw you in those Neil Simon plays, the self-tape.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you.
How great were those? We've talked about that before.
Oh my God, yeah. It was working with Neil. When I was in my 20s, I was living the dream I had as a teenager that then took a left turn and became something I never imagined, which was the film and television stuff. But I fantasized, oh boy, if I could get over the river and just, work in New York and then it went from Hal Prince, Stephen Sondheim to Kander and Heb Terrence McNally to Neil Simon. And I went, I don't know what's happening. And Neil was so unbelievably kind to me and nurturing to me that it was an incredibly special thing.
Which was the first Neil Simon one you did?
That I ever did? Well, I probably did them in school.
But with him.
Oh, I only did one. I only did Broadway Bound with him. I then did a revival of Prisoner of Second Avenue here in L.A.
Oh, wow.
That he came and saw. And then I directed Broadway Bound, and he came and saw that, and he was already, deeply into Alzheimer's or whatever dementia he had. And that was a really tough night. Because he kind of knew he was connected to it, and he was having all the feelings about that, but he couldn't understand why he was connected to it.
Wow.
And that was hard.
So I went to see that when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
So, coming from a place where I had been interviewing these comedians for the last 2 years, I started doing stand-up the year before, and I had comedy on the brain, and then to see that.
Well, also because he discusses it
Yes.
in the play about
How
how
do you
comedy is written and done, and
Yeah, I mean that really, because I went to all those plays in that era, the Neil Simon plays. But for me, as someone who dreamed of doing what he did in that
yeah,
play,
yeah.
and also the idea of what is this about? That I mean, because those Neil Simon plays would be so hilarious, and then they would get so real, and they
Yep.
would land in a very profound place. And I think it was when I was just realizing, oh, everything isn't supposed to be like Meatballs or Caddyshack, right? There's another way to do this.
Sure. Yeah.
But you were discussing somewhere I read, either you said or somebody said about your comedies, that you write them as dramas, that the story has to be, yes, it's character driven, but the story has to make sense on its own.
I tried to. I tried to. Yeah, I mean, I worked at the Critic, this cartoon James Brooks
Right.
produced that
Yeah.
Mike Reese and Al Jean did. So I had a year where I was able to just hear him talk about stories. And obviously he's been one of the guiding lights. But that's how I looked at it, because he always talked about honoring the characters, and he would say we have to do right by the characters in our work, as if they existed, and if the writing was bad, we were screwing them over.
Wow.
And I had never heard anyone speak like that about film and storytelling, and it had a big effect on me.
Where are you? I'm curious where you are now, because so much of your comedy is about growth, which is funny because I'm sitting next to a guy whose sitcom lasted 9 years, and there was no growth. None of those characters grew one iota.
Nope.
Are you at a different place at this age and where you are in your life, as far as what you want to write, or you feel compelled to put out there on screen, stories you want to tell?
It's a funny age, because when you get older, you realize, like I talk about this in stand up, that an older comedian at some point is only talking about decay. They're only going like, don't you hate diverticulitis? don't you hate when all your girlfriends from high school start dying of natural causes? And so I struggle with that a little bit, because I had projects about high school and college and getting someone pregnant and being married and middle age. And then at some point you're like, do I just have to do the decrepit stuff right now? Can I go backwards and do high school again? What are the rules?
Right.
I said to Jason, it's so sad in our relationship. We've known each other 35 years. We've been best friends. The gifts went from really great gifts to orthopedic devices.
Yes.
It's sad.
I swear to God, I had a birthday 3 days ago. The best gift I got so far is a pair of socks that have acupressure, a diagram of where on the foot, and a little thing. I swear to God, I have it right here in my bag. A thing that you use to press. One second, I'm going to show you this
This
thing.
sad?
You won't
This is
believe it.
really sad.
This is the acupressure tool that you use to press into your foot to make you.
It looks X-rated, by the
Right,
way.
I'm telling you, it's a Jimmy Durante profile. But other than that,
I'm on Amazon right now looking for it.
Oh my God, it's the greatest thing. I had the socks on the other day. Of course, I have
Where do
very
you put that?
very small feet.
Where do you put that?
I'm not sure my kidney is where they think it is, but where do I put what?
That.
I put it in my bag.
No, I mean, where do you put? What do you do with it?
You press it where the sock
You
says
just sit
to
and
push it.
You got to
Well,
do
the
it
sock
yourself.
is like a map of pressure
Oh my
points.
God!
Yes.
Oh my God!
Here-
Kill me! Kill me if
here
I'm doing
lies
that.
your-
Kill
here
me if I'm
lies
doing
your
it.
liver.
Take the book. Take the book and kill me with it. Okay? My God! So, what are the next project? What are you working on now? Aside from stand up, which you still do? Do you still doing Largo? Do you still do that?
Why-
Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, why did you? No, you took a long.
Yeah, I took a long break, like 15 years.
Yeah.
And what was the thing that said I really want to go back, and especially since most of the comics I know are saying it's gotten a lot harder because of social awareness, cancelization, sensitivities, what have it, that it's never been harder to do stand up, and guys I know who are quite good at it are a little bit trepidatious about it. What called you to go back to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just missed. I miss being around people. When you make movies, you do the shoot, but when you write, you're kind of mainly alone. When you edit, you're with one guy in a room for 6 months. And I thought, I think I'm far away from the fun part of this. And then I was working with Amy Schumer, and she was, skyrocketing in her stand-up career when we were working on Trainwreck.
Right.
And one night at the Comedy Cellar, I said, I'm going to go on just to show you what it was like when I did it. And she thought I would bomb. And then I actually had kind of an okay set, just telling some stories. And then at the Comedy Cellar, Esty, who books it, was like, you can come in whenever you want. So then every night when we wrapped Trainwreck, I would just go to the Comedy Cellar and go on. And I just think it's fun. And I feel it helps me tune into what people are laughing at and thinking about. And I don't think the issue of like, what can you say or not say affects most people that much. It depends on how you want to talk about things. If you have a good point of view and a kind heart, you can get away with a lot. There are people who have a really dark sense of humors and they want to just say the thing you're not allowed to say as a release for certain people. That's fun to go, I love a comedy where you say the thing that should end your career.
Right.
And I think there is a place for that. What's wrong with the culture is everyone else hears about it.
Yeah.
In the old day, you might be able to go see someone and they would be shocking, but their act wouldn't be on the internet because there was no internet. So you could just it's like if you love like a punk band or Norwegian death metal, it's not like everyone has to like it. You might like Keith Urban, so don't listen to Norwegian death metal. Right. But I think people think everything is supposed to work for everybody, which isn't the case. It's funny because I was at the Gotham Comedy Club in New York 2 weeks ago. Right as I'm about to go on, they're like, Jerry's going to come in. Is that okay if Jerry comes in? Seinfeld. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm friends with Jerry. And I go, how long does he want to do? And they go, 25 minutes. And then you're like, oh, Jerry's going to murder for 25 minutes. And then I got to try to do an hour after that. And then he comes in and, of course, couldn't be better.
Yeah.
And the crowd is so happy. And he is the best. And then the crowd was so good for me. They were just, he had just put them in the best comedy mood because, he's one of the reasons why I went into all of this, became very obsessed with Jerry's work right when he came on the scene in like the early 80s.
Yeah.
And then he was so nice to me when I interviewed him, shockingly nice to like a 16-year-old. Interviewed him for my high school radio station. Then 6 months later, I called him and I asked to interview him again. And he said, well, I just did it. Why would I do it again? And I said, I don't know. You do the Tonight Show more than once. And then he did do another interview.
Are you
with
serious? Wow.
Yeah, very kind.
You should try that with Larry David. I'd be interested in seeing how that goes.
Let me take you back to that at age 17. So I'm a kid in Philly, and I'm calling people out here thinking I can do this. I don't know why. I had no mentor, no whatever. He obviously did it, Tony Word. Were you a kid who, on some level, was secure enough to figure, I can do this? Because when I read what you did, and I heard the stories before that you called these comedians, was part of it also, I'll interview them, but they'll also embrace me, and I'll be in that group, and somehow that will get me, somebody will say, hey, Judd, you're that good, open for me, or whatever. Was there a whole method to the madness, or was it just the interviews? And why did you feel you could do it and that they would respond? Because most kids, like my son, yes, you should do that. Yeah, I don't know, he's going to be mad. I go, who cares if they're mad? Who cares if they hang up? What's the downside? So I get a lot of that when you mentor young people. They go, well, I can't just call Judd Apatow. I can't. Yes, you can. He'll either call back or he won't. So where was your 17-year-old head when you were doing that stuff?
Well, my grandfather's a jazz producer, and he produced Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and Dinah Washington, and he was just a hustler. And I always knew that there was some hustle to this. And so when I worked at this high school radio station, my friend Josh Rosenthal would go interview the new bands. So he went and he interviewed REM and Susie and the Banshees. And then he said to me, you should try to interview comics. And I didn't think it would help me be a stand-up because I hadn't started stand-up yet, although I dreamed of it. I just wanted to touch that world. I was so obsessed with like the Mike Douglas show and Merv Griffin. Like it was like peeking your head into the TV. Like, are those people real?
Yeah.
And so the first person I interviewed was Steve Allen. And it was incredible that he existed.
Right.
Because the only star I had ever met was Toady Fields.
Toady Fields. Oh, man.
And she was buddies with my grandma. So they talked about her all the time like she was the coolest person in the world. So I think as a little kid on some level, as like a weird kid, I thought, Toady Fields is the coolest person in the world. That means I can be cool. I'm weird like Toady Fields. And so it just gave me some courage. But also, no one liked comedy back then. Kids weren't talking about it, in the early 80s the way they do now.
Right.
And so it was like I had my own hobby that no one had any interest in at all.
But wasn't that, I'm trying, as I've gotten older, time my sense of time is so, but the early 80s, wasn't that still sort of the real height of Carlin and Steve Martin? And so, they seem like they were so much in the zeitgeist. I'm surprised that people weren't talking, and Saturday Night Live weren't talking about comedy.
I think, people would watch it all, but no one really cared. You know what I mean? Like, we would all go see Ghostbusters, but it wasn't like there was like comedy obsessives.
Uh-huh.
And so I just took it to some other weird level. Like, my friends, they'd go to see Spinal Tap with me. I took a friend to see Spinal Tap, and when it came out, maybe it was like in 11th grade or something. And when it ended, he still thought it was a real band.
Sure.
They didn't really know their comedy that well.
Yeah. What I'm noticing and getting is what brings me back to what we started with. You seem to me, and everything I've read about you, and even the fact that you love stand-up, doing stand-up, to me, I went into performing because I couldn't be with myself. So if I didn't want myself to be seen. So if I was a character, that was good. If I was in an ensemble, that was good, because I didn't have a tribe, and I couldn't stand being alone. I did not think of myself as a self-motivator. I did not think of myself as a go-getter. Here you are. Everything I've seen you accomplish has been because you said, I am going to go do this. I'll figure it out when I get there, but I'm going to go do this thing. Yeah. And yet, at the very same time, you're the guy going to the books to go, I'm not good yet. I'm not good. Yeah. I'm gonna throw up in Studio City and find out what I don't know. And those two, they seem like opposite sides of something as opposed to two sides of the same coin. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, that makes sense. I mean, I think that maybe it's just that I felt so insecure that I was looking for like my way to escape, and at a very early age, like weirdly early, like almost like 10 or 11, I thought, okay, it's comedy. That's the thing. And then no one had any interest, so it was like this little secret dream. And I kept thinking to myself, people don't really get me, but I think this thing I like is going to save me. Like, I had a sense that I'm going to go to a place where they get it. Like, there's a world where George Gobel lives. Mm-hmm. There's a world where Paul Lynde is. And I think I might have a spot to do something there. I didn't even know what it was. But that drive to do it was also probably like the mental health condition, which was, why do you need to do it? Because you're insecure, you're not comfortable with who you are, you're trying to succeed to feel good at yourself, you're trying to have a thing, and the madness of the pursuit allowed me to avoid figuring out who I was.
So in some ways, it's not so much, to be metaphorical, it's not so much a call to the light as a flee from the darkness.
In a way, part of it was. I mean, I loved it, but I also thought I would get safety in it. Uh-huh. And as opposed to just having safety because I just liked myself.
Wow. And it gives it really gives, so many kids today don't have the direction and want to make a commitment to something because they're scared, I'll make the wrong move. I'll make the wrong what. You just went for it. And by the way, growing up, Philadelphia, Mike Douglas show was our celebrity. And Ernie DeMassa is a friend who produced every segment of that show. And I always ask him about the John and Yoko week. And why did Mike have guest hosts? And oh my God, he had Bootsy, this guy on, and the band on. And he always surprised. Ernie said, I learned my segments that you always had to have a surprise. He said, we had Muhammad Ali sitting there. And we brought out Joe Frazier, and he didn't know he was coming out. And he didn't look up for the first 10 minutes. And the tension you could cut with a knife, but it was magical Those guys had to make magical television all the time. So the big question for you, Mr. Successful Producer, Director, Writer, can you be 100% present at any given time, or do you vacillate back and forth and it's a constant battle?
I think it's a constant battle, but I'm way better than I used to be. Like I understand the path to get there. It doesn't happen as often as I like, but I have whatever mental things from reading Ram Dass and breathing things, and I feel like I still get a little crazy, but
you're adjacent.
I'm calmer more. Yes, I'm calm adjacent.
Calm adjacent. Well, no, by the way, we weren't able to do. I was so excited about doing that TV show we came up with Bob Patterson about a motivational guy who couldn't motivate his own family, and I wanted the mentor to be secretly a mess, but trying to keep his life together. And we cast late and did it late, and then 9/11 happened, whatever. But I still love that. I love that world so much.
We have had more fun exploring / lampooning the guys who get up and go, I can help you be a better you. And what we found in it was so interesting. We would do a live show where I played a character named Donnie Clay, who's going to show you the way. Donnie Clay shows you the way, America's fourth leading motivational guru. And we would espouse things that were so silly and so nonsense. And the audience would laugh. They'd have a great time. They knew it was a comedy show. And at the meet and greets at the end, they'd go, I learned a lot today.
but to be fair we would give him, like he had the Donnie Clay 4 words to guarantee you success.
Financial success.
Financial success. Not 30%, 40%, 50%,
I'll
even
increase
double.
your income. I'll increase your income. And we would do it.
Guaranteed.
It's not a book. It's not a program. It's not a thing you have to do. Four words, and you'll go out tomorrow and you'll increase your income to 50. And we build it up for, the whole big thing. And eventually go, here you go, folks. Get out your recorders, get out your pencils, 4 words, get a second job. Okay, big laugh. And then people would come up and go, you know what? You're right. You're right. You're right.
I'm going to do weekend jobs.
And when do you play Largo again?
Dying to come see you. And
you and I should go to Largo. I go to Largo to see. I have my friends are the Improvised Shakespeare Company.
Yes,
every
incredible.
Month. But we should go to Largo.
So what are you? So what's the? Who else is it? A roving band of friends? Whoever's available.
Yeah, I mean Pete Holmes does it a lot with me.
Pete Holmes,
the musician Beck has done a bunch with us.
Wow.
And Andrew Bird, who scored my last movie, has been there with us. And Craig Robinson was amazing a couple of months ago. So it's fun. I do them all as benefits, and then I just ask friends to show up, and the club is magic. So
it's good.
It's a great time.
Well, thanks for spending time with us, man, and thanks for.
And everything's good at home. Leslie's good. Everything's fine.
Everything's great.
Your daughter's becoming a huge star.
The kids are both working. They have jobs.
God bless.
Knock on wood.
Nesting and learning what that is.
Excellent.
Now, are you annoying to them at this point, or not annoying to them?
Well, once they move out, you realize that your job is to figure out how to feel like it wouldn't be painful to be around you. Right? Like you become like a consultant. You're not a parent, you're a consultant.
Right.
And then you kind of want to hang out with them and their friends. Like, would they ever allow me to dinner with their friends? Like, I would never, when I was young with my parents, like go on vacation with them as a young adult because I was so neurotic and weird. And I regret that, but that's what you want.
I love that.
Like, would they ever call me and go, let's get breakfast? And that has happened. So I feel like I'm succeeding.
Yeah.
With an ulterior motive or just breakfast to hang?
Well, clearly free breakfast.
Well, okay. That's the beginning of it.
Yeah, my kids have never whipped out the card to pay for a meal.
No, and my kids never said, let's have breakfast.
Yeah.
No, we have a meal. We do that.
My daughter's on a TV series. She still expects me to cover the Uber.
Oh, my God. It's never going to end.
And I just do it so we have something to talk about.
That's hilarious. Well, be safe, man, and thank you for all the comedy. And thanks for taking the time to join us.
And
we'll see you at Largo.
We'll see you at Largo. If not, I'll see you at, sometimes we bump into each other at Craig's. And
we bump into each other when we were watching Dick Van Dyke exercise.
Oh, you betcha.
Oh, yeah. Dick, amazing. Well, thank you, Judd.
Judd, all the best. Thank you, friend.
You too. Take care.
Take care. Well, look at that. We got a big Hollywood producer, writer, director, multi-award winner, came on our show, had a fabulous conversation, and left without offering me a goddamn thing. Not a, hey, I got something in mind for you. Not a, I should have used you in. Not a, hey, I'm a big fan. Talk about a show I was in 1986.
Talking about self-help.
I need
Let me give you some help. Let me give you some help here. Let me offer some help here. The gift was having him on, not an offer of a gift.
Right.
It's be here now, Baba Ramdas.
Don't you think that we did hit on this? I think I hit a fascinating thought when I said he is a guy who's basically carved all his own stuff. Yes, he worked with a couple of wonderful mentors along the way, but he had to carve his way to get to them. It was not like, being in a play that somebody else wrote and somebody else directed and you get seen by a thing and so you get your next big opportunity. He had to create every opportunity from scratch. He's writing his own stand-up. He's writing his own films. He says, I'm going to be a producer. And yet, so he's got that ability to say, I am worthy of doing this.
But
people will be there. And at the same time, he's going, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not
But
worthy.
I know,
or I don't know enough, or I don't feel enough,
I grew
or
up
I'm
blue
not good
collar in
enough.
Philly, so I didn't know well-to-do people, and I didn't know people in entertainment. And I came out to L.A., and I never networked. Being a radio guy, I never networked. It was a job for me, so I didn't network, but I got to interview a lot of people, and I got to know people of different stages in their life, from billionaires to the most successful actors to movie stars. And it's shocking how many of them are unhappy, crying in their car, feel unfulfilled. Mm-hmm. And you said it to an extent, Jay, and we've been close a long time, when you won the Tony, which is a huge thing, and even though the phone calls came, you said it's not what I thought. You think it's going to be. Something's going to come down, and it's going to change your life, and forevermore you're going to feel good about yourself, and no insecurities, and no problems, and it does none of that, other than get you some more work. And here's Judd Apatow, who's saying, yeah, he's as big as can be, and the studio's clubbing him for being $2 million over. Yeah. So you still have to prove yourself constantly.
Absolutely.
You have a movie, your third movie, you have $1 billion in the bank, and your third movie fails. And the critics just savage it because it's their time to turn on you because they were so good to you for 3 times.
Or you got it wrong this time.
Or you got it wrong, whatever. Those things are still tough for human beings to deal with. You know the top guys on Broadway, that you just talked about them. Mm-hmm. Look at what happened to a lot of those guys. Absolutely. They disintegrate. The biggest stars, the biggest rock stars are doing heroin. They're doing drugs. They're self-medicating because it's never what they felt it was going to be.
Right.
So it's a different thing.
Or there's the other side of it is also how many people, and I had my own version of this for a while, are now put in that place of extraordinary success or attention or whatever you might be, and you can't make it fit. You can't find yourself in it.
It's imposter syndrome.
And so you get lost, and you have to find, first you have to know you're lost, and then you have to find your way
And then
back.
You genuinely have to be happy with the gratitude thing, and I know you have to really be present and go, what I got is pretty damn good, whatever that is. Right. Because if you're still racing for that other thing, then you're not really present. Yeah. My horrible thing is with the ADHD and with the misophonia, I'm always, my mind tends to want to be somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I really want to be, like when with you, 100% present. When I'm with my kid, family, 100% present. And that's a hard battle, except the older you get, the more as the clock keeps ticking, you realize less time to get it right. So there's more pressure to get that right. And by the way, also, look at how much of the world is medicated. Because so depression,
this schmuck's taking ayahuasca for guys.
Ayahuasca. Can you imagine?
No. No, I cannot. Listen, I know people who have had the most extraordinary experiences, and I go, if you swallow arsenic, you're going to have an experience.
It could be
too.
again. You're going to throw up.
I just think it's very dangerous.
The producer Laurie wanted to go to another country to do it, and I said, "Do me a favor. I'm all for that. I hope you have growth. Get us a backup
before
you're going to be dead in a foreign country with a guy
about 3 months worth of
in a tent with a guy you're throwing up and he's holding your hair. Maybe. So it is, but it's the search. We're all searching to try and be happier, and part of that is being present. And it's really hard being 100% present because people can't make a living. The struggle.
I was going to say the present isn't always so pleasant.
Also, the ground has changed. When we were growing up, there was kind of a premeditated plan of where you could go. This is what you did, and this is what all bets are off today for our kids. With the internet and influencers and AI, we don't even know the changes that are coming in 6 months. So what are they trying to navigate? Right. So that makes it even crazier to feel good about yourself.
I read a thing the other day, not too long ago, that I thought was so, we're looking for the mysteries of the universe beyond what we know, and we're looking for the existence of miracles. And the guy said, and you can do this. I'm going to tell you right now to do something. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. Touch the top of your head. Why does that happen? You think it. I'm going to touch the top of my head, and it happens. First of all, go explain that, because that's, you want the mysteries of the universe. How does that happen? And then second of all, when you're looking for miracles, not everybody can make that happen.
Yeah, no kidding.
So the fact that you today can think my nose itches and you scratch your nose without thinking about it, that is a miraculous thing. That is when I do my Q&A show, and sometimes we talk about magic and my love for magic, and I talk about how my wife is not a fan of magic because she thinks it's a power trip on the part of the magician, and I go, no, to me it's about, I know it's not real. I know it's not real, but the idea that somebody could figure out how to make it feel real. It's like a great story.
That's the magic.
The story's not real.
That's the magic.
But you get a feeling from it. And to me, I talk about, in that section, I talk about, you walked out, you put on clothes today. Somebody made you clothes. They got it to your house. You bought it. You have a house. That didn't just appear. It's not a mud hut. Somebody built that. You live in it. With what? Paper, you exchanged one thing and you got another. I say, it's all magic. It's all miraculous if you just slow down enough to go, somebody made this.
But that's
and
being
it does,
present. That's
and
being
looks
present.
what it does.
By the way, one of the
You know?
most depressing things I did is I recorded behind the scenes, and Manic reveals all the tricks. I watched about 6. I got so depressed because even the biggest tricks, you go, oh, it just ruined that for me.
Of course it did.
So I never watched.
No,
watched the rest.
here's how you know why to not do that. A magician, not because it's a brotherhood of anything, a magician will never ask another magician how something was done. A true magician will go, that was beautiful.
Aren't Penn and Teller writing a book revealing how they did all their tricks, though?
But I'm not saying magicians won't share their secrets. There's a huge legacy of magicians as they retire their career, retire their
That
act,
will do that?
that say, here's how I achieved
So wait a
this,
minute. All I
build
care
on
about,
it, you know.
all I care about, are they going to reveal how they do the bullet catch, where he shoots the bullet
I
across
think
the
they are revealing
All
the
right,
bullet
because that's
catch.
one of the most amazing
Yeah.
tricks ever.
Thank you, Judd Apatow. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next time on this little show that we call Really?
No, really.